Alright, so now we're going to up it. We're going to add a set. We're going to look at, we just finished doing 2 set Venn diagrams. Now we're going to do applications with 3 subsets. And that's as big as we'll go for Venn diagram applications. And so these are going to be application types. Again, most of them are surveys where we have a list of information based on our survey. And we can put that information carefully into a Venn diagram, which will then help us answer whatever questions we've been asked about it. Alright, so again, Venn diagram with 3 sets is as big as we'll go. The general layout and the pieces of the Venn diagram. So we have our rectangle, which remember is our universal set. That's the set of all possible outcomes. We usually label S. Then we'll have 3 circles and they'll all overlap. So subset A, circle, subset B, and subset C. Alright, so this will be circle A, circle B, and circle C, which are all subsets. And then what we want to do is we want to fill this out with all of our information that we're given in the application. Alright, so again, the number in my universal, so in this rectangle, it should always add up to how many is in my universal. That would be the total. And I should have that many when I add up all the numbers, and no more and no less. So there should be, if there's 100 people in the survey, all of the values inside the Venn diagram should add up to 100. Right, then we have regions, and there are actually 8 regions, and I'm going to label them starting with the middle. Alright, so this middle part's region 1, then region 2, region 3, region 4, region 5, region 6, region 7, and then outside here is region 8. Those regions we're going to fill in with numbers. How many people or objects land in those subset groups? We're going to label what they are. The first one is that middle wedge here. Again, this middle region here. And if you look at this middle wedge, it is inside, and it's the only area that is inside all 3 subsets. So that would be if there are any objects that happen to land in all 3, and it could be empty, but typically there are, usually a number of people, things, or items that land in all 3 sets. And so that would be that middle part, and we put that number in. This would be the number in all 3 subsets. Alright, a number of people or items that are in subset A, B, and C. Alright, then 2, 3, and 4 are all similar types. So if you look at 2, it's this sort of triangular wedge here. Alright, 2 is the region, if you look at it, it's the region in A and B, right? But not in C. So 2 is the number in A and B, but not in C. And what we do is, well, we usually know how many is in A and B. We subtract away then how many were also in C, and what's left over is that little wedge there. 3 and 4 work exactly the same way, they're just in the other circle. So 3 would be the number in A and C, but not in B. And then 4 is this wedge here, the number in B and C, but not in A. Alright, then there's the regions 5, 6, and 7, and I'm just going to write those in the 5, 6, and 7 area. So region 5 here, which would be this sort of shape here, those are all of the items, the number, that are only in set A. Alright, 6 would be the number only in set B, and then 7 is the number only in set C, right? Those are the onlys, right? They're items in my subset that land only in one of those groups. And then I'm not done yet. I have this area outside here. This would be all of the items, or the number of items, people, or whatever. Number not in any of the subsets. Right? Not in A, not in B, and not in C. Right? And that's the area. And a lot of times this is the area we actually want to find. Most of the time there is almost always a question of, is there anybody or items that land outside of my 3 subsets? Alright, so we're going to do a simple example. Alright, so example 1. we took a survey. Athletics department at a particular university took a survey of 300 students regarding their attendance to 3 different sporting events. So a lot of times with 3-set Venns, this is how the application is worded. Not always. Sometimes it's done more in a paragraph. But a lot of times it's done this way, where they give you a list of all of the results of the survey. Right? So when they surveyed the students, they asked them to what sporting events they went to. Well, 135 went to basketball, 125 went to football, 130 went to volleyball, and then below that they went to more than one event. Basketball, football, football, volleyball, and then there was the group 45 that went to all 3, right? Attended basketball, football, and volleyball. Fill out a Venn diagram with the regions, fill out the Venn diagram with the regions filled in using that information. And usually we start at the bottom and work our way up. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead, and before I get started, I'm going to set my set. So I've got people who went to basketball, I'm going to say is B, people who went to football is F, and people who went to volleyball is V. Alright, so this one would represent the number of students who went to basketball and football. This is the number of students who went to basketball and volleyball. This is the number of students who went to football and volleyball. And then the last one would be the number who went to all 3 types. Alright, they went to football, basketball, and volleyball. And this is actually where we start. That's a middle wedge. Those are the people who said they attended all 3. Alright, so there's my information and where we've listed it. So we've given the sets, all the people who went to the different games, and then how they were related. Now we're going to fill out a Venn diagram, alright, using that information. So my universal set would be S. I remember the number in my universal set was how many in my survey, which is 300. So when it's all said and done, the total number of people should count up to 300. No more, no less, because that's exactly how many we surveyed. Then we have those who went to each type of game. There are 3 types of games, so those are my 3 subsets. They were basketball, football, and volleyball. And then we always start in the middle, just like with the 2-set Venns. Always start in the middle if we can. And we know the middle one, right? That's the 45 here. 45 students who attended all 3. So there's 45 students out of my 300 that are in all 3 groups, right? 45 students went to all 3 types of games. Then I'm going to work my way up. The next one I'm going to use is 60 went to football and volleyball. So I'm going to kind of read up my list. All right, 60 went to football and volleyball. So I'm in the football and volleyball circles. So football and volleyball would be, I'm looking at football and volleyball, that would be this wedge. Alright, that would count 60 people should be in that wedge, right? That's the number of people who went to a football game and a volleyball game. That's the overlap between football and volleyball. Well, I've already counted 45 of those 60 that also went to basketball games. So who's left over that only went to a volleyball and football but not basketball? Well, I take my 60 and subtract away the 45 so I don't count people twice. And so 60 minus 45 is 15. Right, that's the 60 people in those 2 groups, and if you add up 45 and 15, it adds up to 60. Alright, now I'm going to do the next one up, which is 65 students went to basketball and volleyball. Alright, 65 students went to basketball and volleyball. Alright, so basketball and volleyball would be the basketball and volleyball circle, which would be this wedge, right? That's everybody who went to a basketball and a volleyball game. Again, we've already counted 45. Right? 45 of those 65 have already been counted that also went to a football game. We want to figure out how many of the 65 only went to basketball and volleyball, not to football. And so what I have to do is we'll have to take this 65, subtract away the 45 that have already been counted in the middle. And so when I take 45 minus 65, that leaves me with 20 who only went to a basketball and a volleyball game. Alright, the next and statement, so the next one up on my list, I'm going to go find it. 75 students attended basketball and football. So 75 attended basketball and football. So basketball and football would be this wedge here. Right, those is everybody who attended basketball and football. 75 people did. But we've already counted 45. So I need to take 45, subtract it away from 75, and that's how many only attended basketball and football and not volleyball. Well, that's 30, right? That's my 75. 30 of them attended a football and basketball, but not volleyball. 45 attended all three. All right, now I'm ready to do the onlys. If you look at them, all three of my circles have only the only spot left, right? The spot here. And I can figure that out by using the totals. So I'm going to write my totals down so I have room. All right, so the total number in my basketball, the total number in my football, and the total number in my volleyball I'm going to write over here so I can see it. So the total number in the basketball was 135. Total number in the football was 125, and the total number who went to volleyball is 130. And so what I do is I know the basketball circle should add up to 135. I've already counted some of those people. I've already counted these 30, 45, and 20. And so what I have to do in order to figure out this final spot, I'm going to write it down here and then I'll write the number down. You take your 135, subtract away the 30, subtract away the 45, and subtract away the 20. When you do that, you get your answer, right, which I'm going to write up here. So 135 minus 30 minus 45 minus 20 leaves me with 40. 40 people went to just basketball games, right? And again, this circle should be all of the people who went to basketball. If you add it up, that adds up to 135. And so then do the same thing for football. All right, so the next one I'm going to look at here is football. I'm going to do the exact same thing. To find my football, I take my 125, subtract away the 30 I've counted, the 45 I've counted, and the 15 I've counted. And so when I do that, that leaves me with 35. All right, so 35 who only went to football games, right? And that circle for football should add up to 125. And then the last one, volleyball. All right, do the same. Not quite the last one. Last one of the circles. All right, so I should have 130. So I'm going to take 130, subtract away 20, subtract away 45, subtract away 15. So 130 minus those three numbers comes out to 50. 50 students only went to volleyball games. All right, and now I'm not done yet. I still have the outside area, which is actually the question we want to answer, right? How many students did not attend any of these games, right? That's the question we actually want to get to. Well, how do I figure that out? Well, I use the total. I'm going to erase these since I've already used those. All right. I know that 300 students were surveyed. I filled in the circle based on the students who went to different games. And so what I have to do is, well, if I add up all of the values in my circles, subtract them from this total over here, that'll give me the area I'm looking for. All right, so there's two ways to do it. You can either just subtract it, or you can take the sum of all the inside the circles. Alright, so you would add up all of those values that are inside the circle and then subtract that from our total. Alright, so it adds up to 235 students went to one or more of the games. And so you take your 300, subtract away the 235, and that'll give me 65. Alright, so 65 students surveyed said they did not attend any of those types of games. And that's actually, so there's my filled in Venn diagram. Alright, so finished out. So if I added all my numbers together, they will add up to 30 and they're all in the appropriate region. Alright, so I know exactly how my questions were answers based on the picture. Alright, so the last question I can answer. How many students surveyed did not attend any of those types? Well, that's that 65. 65 of the 300 students did not attend any of those games. Alright, so I'm going to stop there. We still have a couple more to get to, but I figured I'm going to break this into two sets since these take quite a while to do. So I'm going to stop this video here, and I'll pick up doing a few more examples in the next video to finish up 6.2.